Josue Pavon. He is Sherrod Blakely. We got Bobby Manning going to join us in a little bit. We'll see what he gets from Kristaps Porzingis and Payton Pritchard. They're going to approach the podium soon, but we don't want to leave you guys hanging, right, Sherrod? We want to make sure we give you guys that content that you guys love so much. I mean, it's the first look at this Celtics team, so we'll give you the good, the bad, and of course the ugly. Sherrod, what do you make of this first matchup? I mean, the Celtics win. That's not always what matters in preseason, right? 114 to 106 is your final score. But what do you make of this team so far after the first glimpse of this Celtics roster?
Yeah, well, let's just get out the way that it really isn't about winning and losing in the preseason. It's about how are they playing. Are they able to execute in the roles in the preseason that you anticipate that they'll have in the regular season? That's, for me, that's what I look for. And this was a good performance for the Celtics. I thought Payton Pritchard decided to bring Pro-Am Payton to the building.
Yeah, he did.
Payton got paid, and so then he showed you why he got paid.
Sherrod, it's not even August. It's not August. It's not July. This is a preseason game, but I don't know, man. The way Pritchard looked, he looked different this time, man.
Well, he looks like somebody who's comfortable and confident, and he's not looking over his shoulder. I think when he had a Marcus Smart and you had, some of the other guys that are no longer here with the Celtics around, Payton knew when he got on the floor that you probably want to get the hook real quick. But Jrue Holiday is still kind of feeling his way through things, and Derek White is, he's not going to play much in the preseason because you know what he's about. So this was not for Payton to really show what he could do. And the role that they needed him to play in this game was very similar to the role they're going to need him in the regular season. The offense wasn't looking great. They needed some kind of offensive punch, someone to kind of get, kind of spark them a little bit. And that's what he did.
Right.
Go back to the first half when he had that 4-point play at the very end of the quarter. Things like that, Payton has the ability to do. For him, so much of this is about developing some form of consistency with his play so that Joe Mazzulla and that coaching staff will be confident and comfortable putting him out there with consistency.
Absolutely. And he finished with a game high 26 points. Man, really just turned things around. I feel like when he first checked in, man, game high 26 points with 6 3-pointers, 6 for 11, 4 assists. I mean, I felt like he just found his footing as soon as he checked into the game. I feel like, he got that and one to end the first quarter, that 4-point play that he completed, and this crowd was behind him, man. What I always love about Pritchard the most is that it doesn't matter the situation. He's gonna go 100. You know what I mean? He just signed this new deal. He just re-signed for keeping his spot here in Boston, and it's like he's still playing for another contract. You know what I mean? Like that's what you get out of Pritchard. I love that.
Well, I love the fact that now he's actually going to get a chance to play for his next contract. I mean, with the Celtics, essentially, they did him a solid because if you go by his play, he probably didn't deserve that contract. But the reason he didn't deserve it was because he didn't get an opportunity to prove he deserved it, and that's what he's getting now. And I'm happy for him because I still Payton Pritchard, and I've said this consistently. He's an NBA player. It's just a matter now. Is he a starter for a championship? I don't think so. But he is a guy that I do believe when you're putting together your 8-9 man rotation, he's a guy that I want in there because again, he can make shots. He has a bulldog-like mentality about him. I love the fact that damn near every time he's in the game, he's defending you inline to inline. He doesn't let you be comfortable. The problem that he has is just physics. He's a 6'1" guard, if that. And often screens are being set by 6'9", 270 cats. And he can't get through them or around them as quickly as he would want to. And again, there's nothing he can do about that. The things that I want him to focus on, and I think Joe Mazzulla probably feels the same way, control the things you can control. You can control your shot making. You can control your dribble drive penetration. You can control beating guys off the dribble and finding teammates for open shots. All those things you have at the palm of your hands. It's just a matter of putting it together at a high level consistently, because Payton Pritchard in Boston will be very different than he would be on damn near any other team. There's only 4 or 5 teams really where Payton has to play at a high level just to get on the floor. Most of the teams in the NBA, Payton just being an average Payton Pritchard type of game would be good enough to play most nights. But we're talking about winning a chip, and that requires a different level of consistency in your game. And this was, again, for Payton Pritchard, this was a great start. Obviously, at the end of the season, nobody's going to look back and damn, Payton dropped 26 in that first preseason game. Nobody's going to give a damn about that. But what Payton needs to do is use this moment as a building block for the next game, and then the next one, and then another one, and then you start getting into that DJ Khaled mode, and another. That's Payton Pritchard. That could be his. I mean, that could be his thing if he can be able to do that with some type of consistency. So I'm happy that he got it going tonight for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Same. I'm also happy he got this extension, man. 4 years, $30 million. I mean, that's a quality contract for someone that can come off your bench that you could rely on. And I think the Celtics are at that point with Pritchard. You know, they're like, look, this is the position that you're in right now. Everything changed a week ago for many reasons, right? Bringing in someone like Jrue Holiday changes the makeup of this team, but also sending out someone like Malcolm Brogdon gave Pritchard the green light, which he already had, by the way. Like I just want to make that clear, because not only has everyone been talking great about Pritchard throughout training camp, but I'm hearing through the grapevine, Sherrod, that this has been going on for weeks before training camp, whether it was the pickup game that they were playing over at the Auerbach Center, or whether it was the actual training camp that happened throughout the past 3-4 days, where he's just not only being vocal as a leader, as a point guard, but also doing a little trash talking. That's what I'm hearing, Sherrod. That's all I've heard today since I came in here, man. You know, with the contract talk, with everyone being like, Pritchard's been that dude being like, yo, you thought you can guard me? Shooting in people's faces like he did similar at the end of this one. Oh man, like shaking his head, being like, you can't guard me, bro. Like, he's been that guy in practice. And I love that.
There were rumors about that when he was at Oregon. And watching him play in college, I'm like, hell yeah, he should be like that. I mean, he was putting cats on a regular basis. He was a bone crusher, snapping ankles left and right. So again, that to me is that's just who he is. And I think now, though, he's got the freedom and confidence to speak that truth, because you ain't dealing with Marcus Smart in your ass like you used to be. You ain't dealing with a guy
the way he is.
You're looking at a relatively blank slate of guys that you're going at and going against, and that breeds confidence, particularly when you know that you're a good player. I think with Payton, the thing that is to me most intriguing about his contract is that typically guys, when they get their new deal, the new deal is typically based on the belief that we're going to reward you for what you've done, and we're going to hedge that you're going to get better in the future. And this deal, I would say this deal is more about what they think he's going to do in the future than what he's already done. And that's a little bit different. So, I mean, I give Brad Stevens props for giving Payton a deal that really rewards his potential and not necessarily his proven body of work, because most GMs in this league aren't necessarily looking to do that. They need to see what you can do, and then they will hook you up after they've gotten their money's worth and then some under your current deal. They'll give you a little bit of something extra. So good for Payton. I'm happy for him.
Absolutely. And of course, head coach Joe Mazzulla spoke about the extension. Here's what he had to say about Payton Pritchard.
In just the strides he made, a lot of talk about just how great he looked in camp. What did you see out there tonight from just those strides he made over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, what you saw tonight and what you'll see throughout the year is just his mindset and his professionalism to just be prepared over the last 3 years. And guys like him, they get rewarded in some capacity. And as I said before, like, we're going to rely on him to give us another layer of toughness, another layer of physicality, another layer of playing with the right mindset. And, you know, that whole unit, really. I mean, O'Shea, Lamar, Luke, Banton, Sam, like, those guys have to be able to understand what's going on in the game and what we need at a particular time. And so they knew it was a close game, and in close game situations, the more physical team wins, the team that gets more rebounds, and the team that executes. And so credit to them, and that's going to be important that they do that throughout the year.
You got to have dogs.
Yeah, man. He's got to be one of those guys. He's got to be one of those guys, one of the first guys off the bench, and one of those guys that you can rely on for energy, for being that point guard, secondary point guard, and of course buckets, right? And that was the case. 6 3-pointers in this one, and he made it look easy, man. Like, hand in his face. This wasn't wide open threes. This wasn't stand in the corner and we'll find you type of threes, man. Like, he was giving it to him, man. And I feel like this is the type of game that I think the Celtics want to obviously build on. I mean, you're not expecting Pritchard to score 20 plus every single night, but his approach is certainly, he's already showing you signs of improvements compared to last year.
Yeah, and that's what you want if you're the Celtics. You want to see growth. I mean, that's really what it comes down to when you talk about Pritchard. You don't want to see the same dude, that you saw in year 2, year 3. And I think this is an example of that growth. I think the confidence that he played with, the fact that he recognized the moment. And yes, it's a preseason game, and it ain't going to be a damn thing in the grand scheme of wins and losses. But it does matter in terms of wins and losses because you're helping develop and cultivate a level of confidence in a guy that you're going to need to play with a high level of confidence when the games really matter. Payton Pritchard is going to be one of those guys that if the Celtics win the championship, and you start looking at what are the three biggest differences from the previous year to this year as we factoring into that winning a chip, he's going to be one of them because he's a guy, again, as Joe Mazzulla pointed out, toughness is in his DNA. He's one of those guys that you don't worry about toughness. And to me, the only issue I've ever had with Payton Pritchard is opportunity. And that's something that none of us, including Payton, can control. And so the more opportunities he gets to play, the better his chances of are being the player that we all see he can be and helping the Celtics win. But, the flip side of that was in the past, you could understand why he didn't play. I mean, you had an all defensive player in Marcus Smart. You've had Malcolm Brogdon. You've had guys that were clearly head and shoulders better than him and warranted significant minutes. But when you look at the situation now, you've got Jrue Holiday, who's, he's on the north side of 30 and is, at worst, his minutes probably aren't going to be as high as they've been in the past. You've got Derek White, who has the ability to play multiple positions on the perimeter. So you're going to need a third guard at some point to be somewhat of a stabilizing force for your offense up with that second unit, and sometimes mixed in with the first unit. And Payton, he's that guy. When they have units that they need another guy to space the floor at the point guard position, he's the guy. I mean, he's a better shooter than Derek White, and he's as good, if not better than Jrue Holiday. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that he's a guy that you can look at and play now. And the other thing, too, we talk about his defense, and no, he's not going to lock anybody up. But the thing about him is this: he's a tough kid, and he's going to fight. And he's going to absolutely get torched and filleted some games. But that doesn't mean he's going to be useless. He's a guy that's going to fight to try to be a good defender. And that's half the battle of being a good defender is just wanting to. And he definitely wants to be that because he knows that's going to keep his ass on the floor.
Yeah, he's relentless, right? I mean, he's picking guys up half court, just trying to stay with their guy the whole time. He doesn't back down when he has to do that, right? It's just part of his DNA. But yeah, of course, he's undersized. It's not always easy for him. But man, you talk about what this lineup looked like last year compared to what we saw today. And again, I'm going to say this like 17 times tonight, but I know it's preseason, but that starting lineup looks a hell of a lot different with that 7-3 guy, doesn't it, Sherrod? Man, Kristaps Porzingis balling out today. What were you about to say before I keep going? You were about to say something. You got a caveat or something? You didn't like out there?
Not so much a caveat because Porzingis played well. There's no doubt about that. He looked really good. And everyone is going to lock in on the scoring and how offensively they look. I was more impressed with the way he contested shots. And for those who Porzingis has been a walking easy pass for offenses for most of his career. In fact, listening to Brad Stevens talk with JJ Redick, during the game about Porzingis, and Brad, said what we all have seen that when early in his career, you went right at him because that was easy buckets. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But
New York days. Yeah,
he's gotten better, and I think he finally realized that he's never going to be an All-NBA defender, but he can be a good shot contester, and that's what you need from him. He's not going to get you 15, 20 rebounds, or hell, he may not. On a good night, he might get you 10 or 11. But the best thing he can do for you defensively, particularly in pick and rolls, is contest shots. Yeah. Stay close enough to where you can use that 7'3" length to make his shot more tougher for guards, and he did that a couple of occasions in this game. And that, to me, I was more impressed with his ability to just move a little bit than I was his shot making. Because him scoring 17 points, making his first 3 shots, that's what he do. I mean, he's always been a good scorer. Even on bad teams, good teams, didn't matter. Buckets was something that he was able to give you. But can he give you a little bit of stability defensively? Again, he's not locking anybody up. In fact, I would say that having Al Horford playing a big reason why you do that is so that you have at least one big, average to above average defender. And so that's why I think we'll see a lot of the double big lineup, in part because they want to make sure that Porzingis is not put in situations where his defensive liabilities are exposed. And conversely, you make a point of taking advantage of what he brings to the table offensively. I didn't see as much of the Tatum Porzingis pick and roll that I think we'll see as the season progresses, but I believe that's something that's absolutely in the playbook for Joe Mazzulla to use, because I think it's going to be devastating.
Yeah, I think so.
Two guys,
work that out.
yeah, I mean, when you got them do certain, pick and roll, your defense is cooked, because no matter what, if you go one way or the other, you're at a mismatch. You either got a guy that's dropping 30 a night in Tatum, or a 7'3" guy who can shoot pretty much anywhere on the floor. So again, we didn't see as much of that, which is fine, because there's a lot of preseason left to be played. But the Celtics, they got some options. They definitely have some options. And I thought what they did tonight was just kind of showed you just a quick snippet, almost like the trailer of what you might.
Right. Yeah, it's the trailer for the upcoming season. No doubt. I thought we would see a little bit more of that as well. We got a little bit of that from Derek White, though. I like that alley-oop in the first quarter, the one-hand slam. That was that's what he can do, right? He's not gonna jump quite up there like Rob, but the man's 7'3", right? I mean, that's the difference. And also, you said it. I mean, he can pretty much shoot from anywhere on the floor. I think that's something that the Celtics just didn't have last year. Never mind someone of his size, but someone that can knock down those mid-range shots. Obviously, can extend his shot to the behind the 3-point arc. But what you said about defense is also very important, and I think that kind of stuff is contagious when you're around. You're in a culture that's going to be the focus. And let's face it, he's never been on a team where he's not the guy who's the first, second, or maybe probably the third best. But you know what I'm saying? Like the last couple of teams I feel like he's been on, he's always been asked to be that guy, or at least 1A or 1B. And I feel like in this situation, he's comfortable with that, and that's going to encourage him to play defense, especially when you got all NBA guys who have that same level of intensity and around the same age, and you guys are all striving for one goal, right? All the same goal. I mean, when the guy came out here for shoot around, the standing ovation, I mean, he just seems genuinely happy to be here. And I know it's still early, but I never got that sense so quickly when he went to Dallas, right? Never mind New York, his rookie year, he didn't even go to the exit interview. He was so disappointed with how the organization was. I just feel like he just sees how things are just structured here, and he's way more comfortable to be in this environment.
Absolutely. And again, that's a big part of embracing the fact that this is a new world.
Right.
For him. This is an opportunity for him to do some things that he has not been, frankly, capable of doing. He's never been in a situation where he was on a team that was a bona fide title contender. He's never been on a team where he was not the first or second option, which I think early in your career that might be problematic. But at this point, there's really not a lot left for him to do. I mean, he was an all-star once. He's been a leading scorer in this league, so no one doubts his ability to score. His defense, it is what it is. The only thing that he really can feel good about achieving and accomplishing is winning a championship. And when you join a team as good as he is, and you're like the third or fourth best option offensively, and now they've structured things in a way where defensively you're not the last line of defense in that front line. You've got Al Horford, who's a all NBA defensive player. You can't ask for a better situation. I was watching the ESPN broadcast, and they talked to Porzingis after the game, and you swear to God, they just won the damn. They just got out of the second round of the playoffs.
Man, I think we lost you.
He was genuinely happy. So, good for him.
Oh, here we go.
Is that a Bobby flash?
Yeah, I don't know what he did, but when he was coming in, I lost your audio for like 5 seconds. Now you're back. Yeah, I was gonna say Bobby's gonna be here in a second. Wait, before we get to Bobby, I want to get this comment out of the way here. Yeah, this guy here talking about the Paul Pierce thing. Look, I wasn't even there. All right, I'm not gonna say who he was talking to, but Paul knows what's up. All right. Anyways, Bobby, what's going on? How was those press conferences? What did you get from Payton Pritchard and Kristaps Porzingis? Bobby?
Uh-oh.
Damn, what's going on? We got a little technical difficulty here. I'm working on it, but sorry, we'll work on Bobby in a second. But go ahead, Sherrod. What were you saying?
No, I was gonna say we're talking about Porzingis, and we need to be mindful. And again, some of the commenters they totally you can tell that they know the damn game. They're just like, slow down, don't get too excited. It's just a preseason game.
And yeah, but if we're critical, they will be saying the exact opposite, though. That's the funny part.
But this is the thing that I keep coming back to. This is our very first chance to see these guys as a collective body. Oh, yeah. We had no idea whether they would just go a traditional backcourt where you have Derek White and Jrue back there, or they go double big like they did, and you'd have one either Derek White or Jrue coming off the bench. And they went with the double big, and I think they're going to go with the double big for I would say more times than not, simply because it gives them the best shot of having a strong first unit and a really kind of sick second unit. When you think about having Jrue coming off your bench with Payton coming off your bench, I mean, that's you got some firepower. So I like what I've seen here, but again, I want folks to understand that the reason that we're excited is because we had no idea what the hell this team would look like the first time out as a group. And they looked pretty damn good. They didn't look like a team where you had such key pieces that were gone and replaced by a couple other pieces, and things would be disjointed. They looked a lot more cohesive than I thought they would look in the first preseason game.
All right, Bobby, we got him. He's back. What's up, Bobby? He was just in the pressers with Kristaps Porzingis and Payton Pritchard. What's going on? What you got?
What's up? You hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Yeah. So I didn't hear from Porzingis. I was grabbing Holiday in the locker room, and did hear from Pritchard. So overall, you want to go the Pritchard direction or the Holiday direction?
Pritchard first.
So he obviously reacted to signing the deal today. Said it's not extra pressure on him, but he was glad to get it over with and get it done. But overall, he's being Payton, and that's what Holiday said about him too. That's just Payton being Payton out there, lining guys up, attacking off the dribble, pulling up from three aggressively. I thought the aggression overall was what stood out to me most from him here. He didn't hesitate at all. He said, playing with the Olympic team over the summer was a big confidence boost for him. So nothing surprised me about his game here tonight, especially going against the guys he did, Javonte Smart and David Duke and Smith and whoever else is coming off that 76ers bench there. He really didn't face the best competition in this game. But Joe pointed out, and I think you were in there for Joe, Josue, the game management leading them to the win. It was a one-possession game there late in the fourth when he started hitting those shots in droves. And, the and one was the go-ahead shot. So you liked his passing in this one. I thought he ran some good pick and rolls. He's still not a guy who I think is going to drive this offense like a floor general. But his role on this team is going to be scoring. And for him to do that in short minutes off the bench was pretty impressive. I mean, he just caught fire there in that fourth quarter. And the caveat is the competition, of course. But you couldn't have expected much better from him on the day that he signed his extension. It was a very encouraging performance.
All right, what do you think for Porzingis? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sherrod.
No, go ahead. I mean, the big thing, and we talked about this a bit earlier, Bobby, is you just want to see guys how they perform in the roles that you are going to most likely see them in when the games matter. Pritchard is going to be looked upon as a that's what he's going to be looked upon to do when the games actually matter. So for him, first time out in that role to do exactly what he's literally being paid to do right now was a very positive sign. Now, is he going to get you 26 points every night? Hell no. We all know that ain't happening. But you know that when he's in the role that he's supposed to be playing, he can do that. You know that is in him. And so, again, for me, and my big thing with Pritchard is playing enough to where he has the confidence to take those shots, to make that impact. And I just thought that, the yo-yo that he was on last year as far as playing time didn't afford him an opportunity to get the kind of confidence that I think he needs in order to be an impact player for this squad.
Yeah, and he should have had more assists. My guy Cornette did blow it for him a few of those role plays.
Bobby, I want to hear that one more time because I wait. What did you say?
My guy.
It wasn't Cornette's best game. I'll give you that. He's got to catch those balls on the move.
That he shot 3 feet. Yeah.
Wait, is that why you beat up on that Twitter that tweet that came at you?
I mean, it's 5 minutes pretty much when it mattered there.
I know, but I just thought it was funny. You had to say something. You couldn't let that slide.
He's got quite a bit to prove here this year. He does. They're putting that backup big man position on his shoulders, especially in a game like this, Sherrod, where Al's starting, and I would not be surprised at all if on opening night, White's on the bench and Horford starts. I think Brad especially likes them playing double big. That gives them the most opportunity to play double big throughout the flow of the game. And this is something not many people are talking about, Sherrod. Al's only come off the bench 14 times in his career. And he said when he came back to Boston, I'd rather start. That's where I'm comfortable. And I asked him at media day if he still feels that way, and he kind of avoided the question.
No, he said that's up to the coach. In other words,
yeah.
You already know the answer to that question. Why you asking?
So we'll see. If Horford and Porzingis are starting together, they're going to need Kornet to perform in that second unit.
True. And again, no disrespect to Luke, but I don't feel good about him performing consistently. I just don't. In this game, there some of those concerns came to realization. I mean, just missing easy shots, showing enough physicality, little things that may not seem like that big a deal, but they concern me at that backup center position. Because if you've got Luke and, if you've got Al and Porzingis in that first group, you got to have some energy at that position. And I would not be shocked if Joe at some point turns to one of his basically power forwards and have them play center.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Who do you like at that spot?
I think
Brissett, Banton.
No, not Banton. I mean, that's a tough.
Gabriel.
I mean, I think those are the three guys that are essentially trying out for that position. I don't know.
Even maybe off the bench like a center.
I don't know. I don't know if Kornet will be the guy who locks that down all year long, but it wouldn't surprise me if he starts off like that. He's going to be granted that opportunity, but he's got to show some improvement. I mean, I don't think he's gone the other direction, but I haven't seen a whole lot of improvement so far. It's still really early, but you're wondering if he's going to make some sort of adjustments in this game throughout these preseason matchups. You know, I think this is a great opportunity for him to showcase himself and also, you know, maybe not make it set in stone that he's one of those rotation guys, but you want to be one of those guys, whether it's the ninth guy who, you know, if someone gets in foul trouble, you're going to see Mazzulla turn to right away. But he's got to prove it, though. He's got to show it to us.
The challenge is he's matchup dependent, right? And I didn't think this was a great matchup for him against a Philly team that wants to fly and run up the floor and move. And without Embiid, they were a much faster team tonight, especially with Nick Nurse coaching them. So it showed that he can be challenged in those quicker, faster matchups. He's definitely matchup dependent against bigger guys. Like, it almost would have benefited him to have Embiid out there tonight.
Oh, hell.
I'm just saying the speed of the game, Sherrod.
But you're talking speed of the game. I'm talking about the actual game being played.
Sherrod, last year they played Philly at the Garden. I don't remember if he started, but Al was out, Rob was out. I want to say Grant might have been out too, or at least he was playing at the 4. Kornet played a ton of minutes in that game, probably 20, 30 minutes, and the Celtics won against Embiid, against the Sixers.
Embiid was hungover that night. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I know. That's true. No, that was a good game. I know exactly what you're talking about. But, I mean, I just think –
Oh, Griffin must have started, right? He was always starting those games. So Kornet came off the bench, and they won.
Kornet came off the bench, yeah. I just wonder if – I don't want to say this moment is too big for him, but when you're you know, in the middle of the game and the way things are, the intensity that everyone's been talking about through training camp, I wonder if he's just trying to match that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe it's something that he's just still trying to figure this. I mean, the team has changed in a big way, you know, and I do think it affects him in a way because of how they want to play, how they want to improve their defensive identity. So it's a big spot for him. He's got to show that he can keep up with these guys and be that he can earn valuable minutes and someone that Mazzulla can trust. I think Mazzulla has some trust in him. I think he likes the way when he's positioned on defense, getting to certain spots. You know, maybe the timing's not completely there sometimes or all the time. So I do think that he's continuing to show potential, but he hasn't convinced them yet. Right, if that makes sense. He hasn't locked down a rotational spot yet. He's not the first guy you think of when you're like, man, this team needs a big that they can rely on coming off the bench. You know, you're not quite sure yet. You have to wait. He's got to prove that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's going to get opportunities based upon the way the Celtics are putting together their rotation. So very different than Payton Pritchard's situation where Payton really didn't get many opportunities to prove what he could do. Cornette's going to get that. But at some point, you can pretty much take it to the bank. Mazzulla's going to move on and give some other guys some opportunities. I mean, we haven't talked about Josue Pavon, who I thought, in his minutes, I thought he gave him good minutes.
He almost had the dunk of the night.
Ooh.
But you know what? I don't know why the hell Joe challenged that. There was no way in hell that was going to get over. I mean, he had an arm in the dude's neck when he dunked on him.
That was athleticism, man. What you mean?
Preseason, just let it go.
Let him play.
You know what? Anyway, that's another story.
Lamar Stevens, too. He had a big dunk, some good energy.
He was trying to make the squad, too.
I thought both of those guys looked really, really good in the limited minutes they had. And again, if Joe makes a decision to go with kind of a small ball lineup and maybe have that backup center be like basically a 4, similar to what they did sometimes, I think, with Grant, Lamar Stevens would be in that conversation. Brissett would be in that conversation. And if you're the Celtics, you may not necessarily need a physical big to get by. It would be great to have one. I wish they had another one. I really do. But if you don't, then go with young, high-energy athleticism guys that can just kind of force, the offense to scramble a little bit and things like that. And that may be the way to go if they can't somehow between now and, the season or some point during the season, get a guy that can be physically imposing and give them that kind of that physical anchor that they would ideally want to have.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't know. I wonder if that ultimately leaves Cornet out of the mix. Maybe these guys show that that's a better alternative. That's a better way of playing, right? Whether it's Brissett, whether it's just going smaller in general. The starting lineup. I mean, and Joe Mazzulla talked about it after the game, right, Bobby? This is a lot of that had to do with just Jrue Holiday just arriving to Boston last week. Wasn't quite sure if he wanted to start him, but I mean, this double big lineup that he put out there, it does create a lot of problems for opposing teams, if you ask me, because I think Porzingis changes a lot of what they're able to do on offense, and you still have Al Horford in that front court, right? And of course, this is my question. One thing I wanted to bring up was what Derek White looked like, out there as the point guard. I thought Maxey did a good job staying in front of him. I thought he challenged him a lot. It kind of forced him to do things he didn't want to do, made him a little uncomfortable out there. What did you guys make of that? I mean, if Derek White is to be or has a chance here to lock down a starting spot here, how do you feel as him being that main guy, the key distributor?
I'd rather have Jrue running the show.
Same.
And that's no knock against Derek. It's just that Jrue has done this. He has done it playing with arguably the best player, freaking 2-time MVP. And the thing about Jrue as a playmaker that I think often gets overlooked is people say, well, you know what? He played with Giannis, so he didn't really have the ball in his hands that much. But the dude, you got to understand something. Jrue has averaged better than 6 assists all but 2 years out of 14 he's been in the league. And
7 last year.
His best, no disrespect, because y'all know how I love him with Marcus. Y'all know that. Marcus last year averaged 6.3, and that was like the pinnacle. Jrue, that's average.
How are you doing with this?
That's an average year for Jrue. And so to me, an average season for my elite defensive on-the-ball defender is give me 6 assists a game. Yeah, I want him with that first group because I think Derek gives you a great second unit option, and you put him and you pair him with Payton, and you get. Like I said, I think that Joe is going to be experimenting for, I would say, at least the first quarter of the season as far as the double big or just go in a more traditional 2-guard backcourt. But again, it's one of the awesome things for the Celtics to have that as an option because I think they have the ability to win both ways. It's just a matter of figuring out which unit to go with against which.
So, Sherrod, I was going to ask you about that because it does seem like we're poised, and I wrote it last night on CLNS Media. A starting lineup by committee, or at least a matchup-based starting lineup, you don't see that much, especially from really good teams.
Right.
And most guys do like to be in that regular routine of, all right, I'm starting tonight, and that's going to be what I do. I'm coming off the bench tonight, and that's going to be what I do on almost every night. White's definitely amicable to going back and forth, and that's obviously going to be the guy, along with Horford, that the decision rests on here. I mean, Holiday's not coming off the bench. They didn't go get him to play the bench. I just don't know how I feel about it. I get why they want to do it. I think it's what they're going to do here. Bigger teams, you go with Al. Smaller, faster games. In fact, this one probably would have been a good one to have Holiday, White starting, and Horford off the bench. But, you've covered a lot of teams, Sherrod. You just don't see it much. At least I haven't looked at, like, all the teams over the years and how they've done this, but you usually don't see teams do that starting lineup by committee.
Well, usually teams, that's because there's no competition.
Yeah.
There really isn't it's not about the matchup because this player is clearly better than that player. But with the Celtics, I think you have a situation where you have to not only think about what your strengths are, but also your weaknesses and how do you mask those. That's why the whole double big lineup, it makes sense on some levels because if you go with a traditional lineup and you've got Al coming off the bench, Porzingis at the 5 is kind of scary because I just don't think he can be most impactful there. So if you've got him and Al together, you can put him at the 4, have Al at the 5. Al gives you better defense, better rebounding, and frankly, another playmaker. And for Porzingis, that suits his game perfectly. Another guy who can get me plays, can get me the ball, that I don't have to worry about guarding the most physical big man on the floor. And so I think that if Joe had to lean one way or the other, I think you'll probably see him leaning towards the double big lineup. But knowing that if he had to go small, he could slip Al out and slip Derek in there with Jrue in the backcourt and then go that route. But the thing that we also have to be mindful of in all of this is that this lineup that starts doesn't necessarily be the lineup that'll finish the game.
Yeah.
It becomes a matter of which group is Joe going to be comfortable with playing the most during the 4 quarters of play. And my gut tells me that Joe is going to play smaller ball more than he's going to go with the double big. I think the double big is going to be beneficial to set the tone, but I don't think that we'll stay with that tune for the entire game. I don't think we'll see a lot of Al and Porzingis playing together. I think we'll see them
Oh,
start.
to close games. Yeah, definitely not.
Close. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing in all this. And I don't think Mazzulla's going to go out and say that because he's not going to say that about any particular lineup because he has to wait and see. I mean, I'm sure he has guesses and he has a certain idea, but he has to wait and see how certain lineups fare in particular situations, especially in the fourth quarter. This is an ongoing thing for over 2 years, guys. Let's not forget that, right? This team, it wasn't just last year that they were blowing leads and having a hard time closing out fourth quarters all year long, even in the playoffs, especially in that Eastern Conference Final Series where they could have easily lost in Game 6 because of the way they nearly blew those last couple of minutes. I mean, this is something they have to iron out quickly, and you have an improved roster to do so. So there's no excuses, and especially when you consider the new coaches, the new coaching staff under Joe Mazzulla not being thrown into the situation, 24 hours before media day like he was last year. All that is in the rear view, and I think that's something that is going to be a big focus the first 2-3 weeks of the season. How this team, obviously the lineup is always a talking point throughout the first couple of weeks of the season, but especially which lineup closes and how they fare in particular situations. Are they going to blow a double-digit lead in those last 5 minutes, or can they hold on, or who's going to get the ball and if the game is tied, and for the game winner. I mean, a lot of that we can all guess, but I just think that the identity of this team, we're going to find out more and more about them, the first few weeks, of course.
Yeah, and it's a challenge, Josue, because we're going to talk about it every night on here. Did they do the right closing lineup? Did they start the right guys tonight? That's a tough spot to be in if you're Mazzulla. You normally, if you're the coach, like to have a team that you say, all right, these are our guys. It's a given who's starting. It's a given who's coming off the bench, because then you don't have to make those tough decisions every night. And those can swing games. And so it's going to put a lot on Mazzulla, coming out of wins, coming out of losses, based on what he does with those lineups. Now it's mostly set, right? You're going to have Brown, Tatum out there for most of the game. Porzingis should close every night. I was curious how he'd look playing up defensively, and I thought he actually did a great job tonight, switching out, showing on those pick and rolls. He was just awesome. I think Reed started 1 for 8 against him inside. So defensively, he hit all the marks. He should probably close pretty much every game, I'd imagine. And then, of course, Holiday. So it's just one spot we're talking about, but it is a tough decision. And even on the bench, there's just so many guys here for him to choose from. I see people in the chat are wondering why certain guys didn't play. It's probably because they're playing tomorrow, and some of those guys are going to get extended run tomorrow, and some guys are probably going to sit tomorrow. It's a weird preseason schedule here with the three games in 4 nights. But Josue, which way would you go? Most nights, double big, or do you want White out there given the year he had?
To start or to close?
To start.
To start, no, I say you put White off the bench. I think you start Jrue.
No, Drew's definitely starting. It's Horford or White.
Wait, you're right. No, I mean, yeah, I say you start the double big, but then you don't close that way. I like the problems that they can both create, being in the front court together.
That double block was awesome.
Horford and Porzingis, man. I feel like, especially, right out the gate, Horford getting those fresh legs, obviously, and him just sort of also anchoring that second unit. I like the idea of that, with guys in and out from the starting lineup. And you look at someone like Pritchard and how that second unit is going to come together. But if you have someone like Al who's in and out of it consistently, I think that helps them go a long way, especially when they're trying to find their defense, especially when they have to stop the bleeding, that second unit.
By the way, O'Shea Brissett, Celtics high, plus 14 in this one. He really was great energy tonight. Loved what I saw from him. I know Sherrod did as well. That's who he is. Getting up there on the boards, couple putbacks, flying around. Shot, we'll see, but 3 of 6. That's good stuff. It was overall a pretty good showing by them.
Why do you tie in Sherrod like that? Just because y'all went to the same school. Guys,
I was listening on the broadcast too. Drew Carter, who's taking over the broadcast, came in right as he got the N1 in transition from Pritchard. He was like, "You know where that guy went, right?"
So he did get on. I was confused as to what was happening.
He came on the second quarter and talked a little bit. He'll do the call tomorrow in New York.
I feel like he was getting like the grand tour, and then people were confused because we saw Mike here. So okay.
Yeah, no, they interviewed him during the second quarter on the call there, and he'll do the road games this week. So exciting to see. I went to school obviously with him. I'm sure some people saw him on the broadcast tonight. He's great voice. He's got a great voice. So yeah, I'm sure not a lot of people know him around here, but he's been on ESPN. He's been doing some college football, and of course he went to Syracuse, where most of these play-by-play guys came out of. So Gorman made sure to tell him, though, not everybody came from Syracuse.
That's right. Tell him, Mike. I actually saw Mike on the way in today. It was pretty cool.
Mike and Scal back at it. One more year. You got to really.
That's why it's pretty cool to catch him walking in on the first game of the last season, so to speak.
Right, savor this year. This is it for Gorman, and it's only home games, so it's gonna be interesting. He's been here since what, 80, early 80s,
something like that. Yeah, something like that.
If Nick was here, he'd know.
Well, he was national first, I believe, right? Or was it the other way around?
Yeah, no, he did CBS, the college games.
Right. I remember Tom. Oh, I don't remember, but I heard Tommy and Mike used to do the national game. So I can't imagine that Boston bias. Imagine like having to tune into that for people who aren't from around here, listening or watching on ABC. Like, man, these guys are so biased. But anyways, my last season for Mike Gorman. But of course, this is a huge
1981
for the Celtics team. 1981. There you go. Max MVP. Cedric Maxwell MVP year. Wow.
So, did you guys talk Holiday?
Yeah, we spoke a lot, man. You missed it. No, we did. Yeah, we did Holiday. You got something you want to say about him?
I thought it was weird not starting him. I guess you saw why.
Yeah.
He looked a little out of sorts out there, still trying to figure out where he is, missing shots. A lot of guys were shaking off the rust in this one, clearly. But he ended up playing a lot with that second unit and didn't get a ton of reps with the starters. So I just thought the way they used him was kind of strange in this one. I don't know why they brought him off the bench, given that he needs reps with those starting guys. And defensively, obviously, it was himself forcing turnovers. He had that nice transition feed to Brown out there. But Porzingis jumped in and made an instant impact. It was more of a strange game from Holiday, who had ups and downs shooting and wasn't as involved in the offense as you probably would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. Sherrod, what did you think?
Oh, I mean, Porzingis could have done more. I think if they would have, I think, put in position to do more. But I'm actually curious to hear what Porzingis thought about his first one. I think we've got that sound loaded up.
Let's see.
it seemed like they were really looking for you. Do you think that was just something that just kind of came with the flow of the game, or did Jason and Jalen talk and say, hey, look, we're going to try and get you going?
No, I think it kind of came natural. I think so. I think it's a big problem for the other teams to guard me and pick and roll with those guys, or pick and pop, and we could just play off of each other, handoffs, backdoors, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just really, really hard to defend, and a lot of those times they draw so much attention that it opens the game up for myself, and I think that's what happened early on, and I think, as I said, the more time we get together playing, the better reads we'll make off of each other.
He's right. I mean, the idea of him in pick and roll should be actually scaring the crap out of teams. When you think about him being in pick and rolls with Tatum, with Pritchard, with guys that can knock down shots, it's like it really does become a game of pick your poison. Are you going to leave the 30-point scorer and try to focus on the guy who's 7'3" who can knock down shots from anywhere on the floor, or are you going to stick with him and leave the 30-point scorer in an ISO situation or in a switch? It's a great problem that the Celtics, I think, are going to cause lots of teams to have this year.
He was awesome. It was mesmerizing watching him out there. He's so fluid. The shot, he just fires it off so quick. That first one to start the game there, it just fired right out of his hands on the pass from Tatum. I love the dribble move to get by House. Took House to the ground with that. Dunked all over everybody. And then an alley-oop, obviously. So, like you said, they got him involved often. There's a lot of pressure coming from defenses when he gets the ball. So as the preseason goes on, I'd like to see him make out of that a little bit as well. And like I said already, the defense impressed me a ton. I wasn't sure what to expect from him on the perimeter, but he was able to get out to shooters and switches and pick and rolls and all that comfortably. And he's going to have to do that now that Robert Williams isn't here, and he's going to be the only center out there a lot of times. And he did that last year with Washington, probably his best defensive season ever. And it looks like he can be a real anchor for this defense. I mean, he's just so big out there. That really blew me away in practice and interviews.
Don't do it.
He's just so tall, and his arms go on forever.
Bobby, don't do it.
What are you about to say? Wait, don't get too excited.
I think he had a good game, and I think he's not nearly as big a defensive liability as he's been billed to be. But I don't want him as my defensive anchor. Because if that's my anchor, we sink.
He has to be. What else is it going to be? I guess Jrue.
I thought you were going to beg Bobby not to start comparing him to KG or something like that, but that's almost the same thing. That's what you just said.
KG, Russell, stay away.
All right, let's talk more about the Celtics' defense, but and right after this quick break, in 1 minute or so, our good friends over at FanDuel have a message for you guys. Of course, which you guys can win if you haven't won big already this weekend with the NFL games.
Happen to action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right. Shout out to FanDuel, FanDuel.com/Boston. We also want to tell you about our other good friends over at AG1. You know, we've been drinking AG1 for pushing 2 years now, and we can't get off of it. Keep ordering more. Keep racking up the supplies. The
year supply.
Incredible. Sherrod's got his travel packs over there. If you're new to the show, we've been talking about it for a while. It's one of our favorite products, AG1. It's 75 vitamins, minerals, adaptogens, probiotics, and more for your gut health, mental clarity, energy. It's just a scoop in your water each morning. They got some nice glasses to drink it out of if you do a subscription here. The crew neck's awesome. All their gear is green too for you Celtics fans. So go over there and you're going to get a year's supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/garden. That's drinkag1.com FanDuel.com/garden. Go check it out. The reviews are great too. A lot of athletes use this. So go see who's using it. Go see what the people are saying about it. You don't have to take our word for it. Amazing reviews over there and a great product. And like I said, you'll get some cool gear if you do subscribe, and just see if it's for you. Give it a shot. You'll get those free add-ons there just for trying it out. And again, appreciate them. Longtime sponsor of the show now, AG1. ShrinkAG1.com/garden. Let's talk defense, guys. Do you see? There's been a lot of talk throughout the preseason of Jalen, Jason going for all defensive team. Joe said, "I love defense" a couple of days ago. They're trying to make that their identity again. Did you see it out there tonight?
Like he was forced to say it. Yeah, like come on, you should love defense. No, I mean that's what this team should be. Like that should be the goal. Like Tatum and Brown need to be the ones leading that. And obviously there's going to be reinforcements. Guys like Horford, guys like Porzingis. But before you hopped on, Bobby, I was saying how telling Sherrod how that stuff's contagious, especially when you have all NBA players doing it, and especially at this level. Porzingis watched these guys play in the NBA Finals 2 years ago, fall short last year. I just think all that stuff is relative when you think about where he's at in his career and just trying to show that he can perform at a high level, especially on this stage, right? He's never been on a team like this before. So I think it does start with those guys for sure. And little by little, you'll see more of that throughout these preseason games, but they got to be the ones that are most vocal on that end of the floor, holding guys accountable. Otherwise, you don't become the top defense in the NBA. I do think that this team can be that, or at least one of the top teams, top defensive teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear. Sounds good, feels good, rolling off the tongue, but you got to do it. And I thought it was really telling early in the preseason or before the season started, media day, where Joe Mazzulla talked about how he didn't probably emphasize defense as much as he probably should have because he just assumed that they were built to do that, and so.
Mm-hmm.
He has to. I think there's a conscious effort on his to coach defense a little bit more so than he did last year.
Yeah.
And I can't blame him for thinking that they just automatically know that because you had all NBA type defenders. You had a team that was built on the foundation of being a strong defensive team. So the idea of reinforcing that, you may not necessarily think you need to do that, but Joe found out the hard way. Yep, I coach defense too. Because every year, it's a different team with a different agenda and different skill sets. And this group, I would say, in many respects, is built to be an elite defensive team, even more so than some of the others. When you look at just what they're able to do at the point of attack, which is the ball handler, they've got two of the better on-ball defenders in the NBA. And I think once Jrue and Derek get into a flow, get into a rhythm, they're going to force teams to not be able to get into their offensive sets as quickly as they'd like. And I think you're going to see a lot of possessions where the ball movement by opponents isn't going to be flowing the way they want to until there's like 6 digits left of the shot clock. And for a defense, that's great. That means that you're really taking them out of what they want to do from a comfort standpoint. So I think Joe understands the role that he has to play in these guys becoming a better defensive team, or at least a more consistently elite defensive, because their numbers at the end of the year, but as a whole, look great. But we all know that there are a number of pockets where they just weren't very good, and other pockets of time when they were off the charts good. Finding a better balance between being elite defensively consistently and not just peaks and valleys, that's really what's going to, I think, have a big say in how far this team goes this
year. Right, and not blowing fourth-quarter leads. That's a big no.
And that was a good line by him. I wasn't good on offense, so I had to bring it every night. I just assume that's what guys do, and the effort's part of it. John says it all the time too when we have our offense-defense debate. You just try hard defensively, you'll be good. But there was a coaching aspect to it the year before. They had a scheme with Rob that worked really good. You heard Ime drilling in film sessions, the switching and the system that they were running there. And then Joe came in and tinkered with some things. They dropped more. They played more of an analytical style of defense, which I think you can still be good with, but you have to drill it. You have to be on top of it, and you have to be correcting stuff when guys blow assignments or just aren't sharp on their switches or whatever it might be out there. I just don't think it was enough of an emphasis last year, and it wasn't just about try hard, give it your all out there, bring it tonight. there was some schematic stuff last year that I thought really lapsed, as well as lineups. And like Josue said, and I think you feel this way too, Sherrod, having the bigger lineup out there for more of the game is going to allow them to be more disruptive, not to mention having a shot blocker. One of the biggest things I felt like this team came into the summer saying was we didn't force enough turnovers last year. We got to get back. I think they were top 13 in forced turnovers, number 1 in isolation defense that year under Ime. Those two numbers last year, when you look at the defense, were the biggest reasons that they dropped off and just didn't look the same. I know they were number 2. I know that they had some great stretches last year, but they were inconsistent.
Yeah, well, you've got a head coach who's not going to be on top of guys, but on that end of the floor. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have someone that's going to be reinforcing that identity, then that's what's going to happen. I felt like a lot of the times, especially when the Celtics were struggling, his idea was to sort of fix things up on the offensive end of the floor, whereas on the defensive side, I just didn't – I felt like he never really held guys accountable. You know, we made a lot about how many, the volume of three-pointers throughout the course of the season. And, that was he made a joke about that during training camp. You know what I mean? Like, that was always
Remember, he was like, our offense will set up our defense.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that
it
all
was
the time.
that I felt like he carried in throughout the entire season, and then the same thing happened with the players. They all were thinking the same way, like, we can shoot ourselves out of this deficit. We just didn't have it tonight. The shots didn't fall. Instead of trying to pick things up on the defensive end and not close, not say, oh, we'll just get them next time, and when we find our shot, that was such a cop out. I felt like we heard it a lot throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I thought they were solid defensively tonight. It was a good start on that, and especially Porzingis at the point of attack. And Sherrod, I want to go back to your comment that he can't be your anchor. So who's it going to be?
It's got to be Tatum, man, or Brown. One of those guys. Both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the two guys who have talked about being all NBA defense.
Yeah.
They have clearly made that their goal, and they've verbalized that. When has Porzingis said he wanted to be an anchor defensively? When has he ever said he wanted to be an defense?
I was just about to say, Porzingis ain't saying that shit.
I don't need to hear him say it. I just need to see him do it.
Yeah, but
we're still waiting on that one. 8 years of the game, we're still waiting on that one. And here's the thing. I'm not saying this to crap on Porzingis because I think he's a good player. But I also know that he's a player that has a very specific skill set and plays a very specific role. And anchoring my defense is not that role. And that's okay. That's okay because that just like Al Horford, your role is not to be my best scorer. Everyone on this team has a very clear role. And Porzingis is to be a solid defender and not necessarily my anchor. He can be solid. And I thought tonight was great. Before you came on, Bobby, I was actually talking about how that, to me, was more impressive than what he did scoring-wise, the way he defended. But that being said, I'm not banking on him to be my anchor defensively. I want either Al or Brown or Tatum, one of those three, or Jrue.
Jrue
one of
great
those
tonight.
has to be. And Jrue, I think, is going to be an important part of the defense because he's your arguably the best on-ball defender. JJ Redick on the ESPN broadcast talked about that. Among NBA players, they view Jrue as the best on-ball defender in the NBA. And so that's the kind of guy with that type of credibility among players that should be your anchor. I mean, can you imagine, having a conversation where you're talking with NBA players and you talk about defensive anchors and they say, well, what about Porzingis? How do you think the reaction is that going to be? Like Josue's face right now. Exactly. And again, it's not that he's a bad defender per se.
No, I get what you're saying.
He's not a guy that should be your anchor, especially when you look at the guys that are around him.
Right.
That's all.
I mean, that's why they essentially brought Jrue Holiday in, right? Just to have a defensive anchor, have another guy or a guy that they know is already established. I mean, people can say what they want, before the trade, right? Oh, you haven't replaced Marcus. Oh, where are you gonna? Well, here it is. Here it is. Here's Jrue Holiday, and I don't think anyone can dispute that. Whether people want to say it's an upgrade or not, I mean, regardless where you stand in that conversation, if you ask me, it is an upgrade, honestly. But if you don't agree with that, you can't say that it's not that far off between the two. So I think that's a big part of why this team is favored to win the East, especially when you compare them neck and neck to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah. One of the someone in the chat mentioned, and this is a really good point. They brought up how Jrue got coached by Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, and he did. Jrue got absolutely filleted
But that's not the goalpost anymore, man. I don't know if you ask me, but what are you going to say?
The point is that's the type of player that you, in theory, will be coming across in the playoffs. And I get that point. But here's my thing. Jimmy Butler filleted a lot of good defenders. And Jimmy Butler does that. But do you seriously think that's going to I don't believe that will be if the Celtics demise that Jimmy Butler outperforms Jrue Holiday. And to be candid with you, Jrue, when you look at Drew's body of work as a defender, that was maybe one of maybe 2 or 3 playoff series in his entire career where he wasn't playing at a high elite level. And last night, and people say, well, maybe he's on the downfall. I'm not buying that because they just came out with the NBA's all-defensive first team last year, and guess who was on first team? Jrue Holiday. So the idea that you could go from being an all-NBA first-team defensive player to being crap just like that, I'm not buying. He may not be at the level he was 3, 4, 5 years ago, but Jrue Holiday is better than a significant number of point guards from a defensive standpoint in the NBA now.
Yeah, and that's a worse team defense, too, in Milwaukee, believe it or not, because I know they were the number 1 defense last year, but he was taking on bigger assignments because they don't have a lot of great perimeter defenders out there aside from him and Giannis. Maybe Bobby Portis, there's a couple, but they had more weak links. I feel like Holiday's going to be able to play on some weaker offensive players and help switch onto the best players and actions and attack off ball, which I thought he did a great job with tonight. I think he had 3 steals in this one, and he's the guy I want to look back on most when I rewatch this game and just see all the different angles he attacked from defensively. I thought he was great out there, and in terms of what they needed from him, Josue, I think they needed that quarterback out there who's going to direct everything and be at the front of their communication, because I don't know if Porzingis does that out there. It's a good question. Tatum, Brown, I don't think they traditionally did that in recent years. It was smart. And White's still working on his communication, too, as he tries to become a louder voice. But Drew's obviously the guy to me, the most obvious one, who would lead that defensive communication out there. So we'll see how that develops over the course of the preseason. Last one, I don't know if you got a chance to react to it, Sherrod, but obviously Celtics signed Pritchard to an extension today, $30 million over 4 years. What do you think of that deal?
Great. I mean, it's a great deal for, I think, both sides. We talked a little bit about it earlier. And
we like that.
Yeah, my thing with that deal is the Celtics are rewarding him for what they think he's going to do and not necessarily for what he's done already. And that's a little bit unusual because most teams try to find that happy medium between showing, some type of monetary nod to what you've done, but showing that, we think you're going to get better and we're going to pay a little bit more for that. Pritchard has not done much as a Celtic up to this point, to be very frank and candid. And again, I blame a lot of that on the fact that he just hasn't had opportunities to make a difference. He's going to get that now. And the Celtics are willing to bank on him basically outperforming his contract. And really, he doesn't have to do a lot to outperform his contract. He just needs to basically play the role that he's being given and be consistent with it. Payton doesn't have to go out there and average 15 points a game, but if he can get you 6 or 7 points in like 14, 15 minutes a game, that's going to win you. That's going to win you some games on some nights where Tatum might be 6 for 19, and some days where Jaylen Brown will have 7 and 8 turnovers, 6 of which come with the left hand. And that's another conversation that I'm not going to get into today. But I that left hand still looks a little bit wobbly to me. It's not nearly as tight a handle as I thought it would be. But that, again, we can talk about that another time because my gut tells me that we're going to have more games and we're going to be talking about that.
I don't think that's. I don't know if that's the hand that he signed that contract with, though. I don't know.
I know he did.
All right, speaking of Pritchard, Pritchard finished with a game high 26 points in today's 114-106 win against the 76ers. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Really good. I mean, just to be secure, lock it in, and then, be a part of a great organization, a great city. Obviously, I think this is the best basketball organization and city in the NBA. So it feels good.
Feels good.
So that was the contract. That was about the contract, but I'm sure it does. Damn it, $30 million. That's not about good for anybody. But yeah, look, Pritchard, like you said, Sherrod, this is about what he's going to do, and they believe in him. I think I don't think there's ever been that doubt. But like you said earlier in the show, there's just always been guards that were, head and shoulders above him in the depth chart, And trading Malcolm Brogdon away is a big part of that. He knew going in what this was going to be, and maybe the Celtics just said, "Look, let's just." This deadline is looming. If he starts cooking early, right, like he did tonight, and this carries on to the regular season, maybe he holds off those talks. So it's good for the Celtics to go ahead and come to a deal now instead of trying to head into negotiations with the competing teams that are offering him more money in the offseason. So it's good.
I'd be interested in it. Obviously, it's neither here nor there, but if the Celtics didn't pull the trigger and get Jrue Holiday, would Payton Pritchard sign an extension? I'm not sure he would have.
No,
because
at this price, Sherrod, this is a great price for them.
Yeah, it's still a good price.
But if you're Payton Pritchard, if there wasn't a Jrue Holiday,
I get what you're saying. Yeah. You're like, wait a minit, this is what you're gonna pay your starting point guard? Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You then become probably the biggest bargain basement, potential starter / backup point guard in the NBA.
Yeah.
And so at least Jrue Holiday in the mix, you're coming off the bench in some capacity. But if he wasn't around, if you wasn't on this team, you might potentially start. It wouldn't be completely out of the question if there wasn't a Jrue Holiday around. So the Celtics, I think they did right by everyone involved. I think they did right by Payton, giving him a contract that, again, is going to reward him as he grows into being more of a rotational player. And for Payton, the stability. I mean, he's a late first-round pick. He was a 26th overall pick in 2020. To ink a deal that's paying you, $7.5 million a year, that's going to be a total 30. You're going to come out of this with $30 million, and you may not start more than 25% of the games, and you've got $30 million bank. So again, it works for everyone. The Celtics, it certainly is a deal that is a team-friendly deal, and for Payton, it gives you some stability that you didn't have.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, we'll see how the Celtics do. Game 2 happens in less than 24 hours. Celtics head out to New York to the Knicks. I'll be there. Bobby's heading to New York as well. Sherrod, you coming? You hopping on the show tomorrow? No, you got an off day. You don't do second nights of back.
I might, but I may not. Definitely not coming to New York. I got to pay to play. Damn.
Oh no worries, man. As long as you hop on the show, that's all I'm asking. All right, cool. We don't need to see you in New York. That's cool. As long as you hop on the show, we need those takes. All right, that's what we need. All right, he's Sherrod Blakely. I am Josue Pavon. Bobby Manning. We want to head out to the not out to the court, right? We're gonna go do our
We'll go upstairs.
Segments. We'll do our segments upstairs. We'll finish recapping this one. Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers. First preseason game, 114-106 is your final score. Stay tuned for our reports from Bobby and I. Plenty of content coming from New York. Very excited about that. And everything in between, right? CLNS Media. I'm Josue Pavon. That's going to do it for this episode of the Celtics post-game show. Celtics beat the Sixers 114-106. 1-0 to start the preseason. And game 2 is tomorrow. Everyone in the comment section, man, I know we didn't get a lot to your comments here, but we got – all right, here we go. We got one. Guard report another year. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I know you guys are giving us a lot of flack here, but we just got into the conversation, I guess, right, guys? I don't know.
I mean, blame you, Josue. That's all. I'm just blaming you.
All right, just blame me. It's on me. It's on me. But I had to respond to that one guy, all right, who mentioned Paul Pierce calling out one of those reports. No, that wasn't me, damn it. All right, that was not me. Right, Bobby? That wasn't me.
That wasn't you. You weren't there.
Thank you. I thought you were gonna be like, nah, that was you. Nah, see, I wasn't even there.
That wasn't you, Josue?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
The bass is similar, but come on, y'all know Josue's voice. Come on, stop playing. All right, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. That's gonna do it. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys